Liar, a book by W.P. Thrift, read by name redacted, Chapter 2, Fables into Reality. Larry stood in the doorway staring into his apartment, not at the cat but at everything else. His heart sped up from the fear of knowing someone must have been in his apartment while he was gone, and that sense of intrusion chilled him. Even if it was for a prank, he hated it. Even if he had nothing at all to hide in here, the idea of anyone possibly looking through his stuff while he was absent made him sick to his stomach. "Hello?" Larry called out into his apartment, still standing in the doorway, unmoving. "Who's here? You can come out already." The cat stood up and began walking towards the door, and he spared a moment's sympathy for the cat, knowing someone had put it in his apartment, and now it was about to make its grand escape off to who knows where. Would the owner even be able to find it again once it was loose in this building? Would the cat find its way outside to freedom? He decided that wasn't his problem. The cat reached the door, and began rubbing its face against Larry's leg. The door to freedom was wide open. The cat could just leave, but it seemed only interested in welcoming Larry home, acting like it knew him. "Go on, scat," he told the cat, trying to shake the cat away from his leg. The cat refused to leave out the door. It walked back inside his apartment, turned, and meowed at him. This cat was acting just like this apartment was its home, and Larry was its owner. It had no intention or inclining to leave this place whatsoever. It stood a few feet away from Larry, meowing hungrily. What the hell is going on? "Mike, was it you?" Finally entering his apartment and closing the door, Larry expected Mike to come jumping out from behind his kitchen counter to the right of him, or out from behind his living room couch, which was dead ahead of him. He looked left down the very short hallway to his bedroom and wondered if he'd spot a hidden camera peeking out the doorframe, a cameraman snickering beneath his breath. None of that came. He searched in every hidden spot in his apartment, even opening the tiny door containing the AC unit, which wasn't even large enough to hide a person comfortably in it, and nothing. His apartment really was empty. He really was alone in here with his cat, this hungry yet still content enough looking cat. It had given up trying to meow at him for food, and had jumped up onto the back of the couch and rolled up into a ball, but only pretended to be asleep, watching Larry walk around his apartment searching for bugs or cameras with its blue and green eyes. The cat softly purred as though Larry's efforts amused it. Unable to find any hidden cameras, but still convinced that this was a prank pulled on him by his friend Mike, Larry reached for his phone. The hell? He didn't feel the flat rectangular shape of a smartphone in his pocket. He grabbed and pulled the foreign object out. And it was a flip phone? Marveling at this truly old technology, he rolled it around in his shaking hand. He put his left hand on his shaking right hand to try and calm it down, hold it still. He shook because this phone being in his pocket meant that someone had pickpocketed his other phone and put this phone in its place. Was it the same person that put this cat in my apartment? Larry wondered. He opened the flip phone, and it had power, and its screen said that it had service. It would still work. Larry began to feel like he was in an escape room suddenly, like he'd been given all these clues and the tools to solve them. A cat and a working flip phone. He could still call Mike and ask if he'd done all of this, but Mike was no pickpocket. He had to have employed help to set all of this up. Is my birthday coming up or something? Is that why Mike's trying so hard to mess with me? Larry went to call Mike, but froze. There was no contacts list on the flip phone. He started to dial Mike's number, but froze again. Like anyone knows anyone's phone number these days. Larry murmured aloud, standing next to the couch and scratching Sherbert behind the ears. "I said your name was Sherbert, right?" he asked the cat. "You don't know Mike's number by chance, do you?" The cat purred loudly in response. Wiping his hand off on his blazer after having touched the cat, he went to his computer to pull up a list of work-related contacts. He wondered if he'd entered Mike's name in here somewhere. Deep down he knew he hadn't, but scrolling down the list gave him a moment to hope. Before he even reached the spot on the list where Mike's name would have been missing, Larry suddenly recalled where he would have Mike's number. He pulled up an old email account which he'd started when he first moved to this apartment. When the website didn't immediately come up, Larry feared that it had been discontinued at some point. He'd used his work email for the past 10 years, and so it had been at least that long since he'd last logged into this account. Fortunately, the website came up. It was considerably more dated-looking than he recalled, the font too large, the background too plain. It looked like a scam website, but he'd used it for so many years back in the day that he knew it was legit. He started to enter his username and password, and once more he found himself frozen, at a loss as to what to type. What the hell was my damn password? This was feeling increasingly like an escape room by the second. He sat back in his chair, his arms dropped to his sides, and he felt the cat brush against the fingers of his right hand as he did so. It had left the couch and come to demand pets, so he reached over to pet it, and it walked off, not in the mood for it if Larry was. Sherbert. Larry turned slightly to watch the cat prance off. Wait. Larry slid back in his chair and pulled open the desk drawer, began flipping through 20 years' worth of trash he'd shoved in there. Old calculators that no longer worked, notebooks full of client information from work, old tubes of chapstick, a wad of permanent markers, a Superlad action figure, and finally, in the very back, an old post-it note that long ago was stuck to this computer's monitor. Well, not this monitor, or this computer, but the monitor at this desk. When he upgraded to a new one, still one removed from the present one he used, he'd removed all of the post-it notes and stuffed them into the drawer just in case he ever needed them someday. And today was that day. This sticky post-it note had several passwords written down on it without context. That way if anyone saw it, they wouldn't immediately know which password went to which thing. He didn't need any sort of reminders. He instantly recalled which password was the one to his old email account at a glance. Wiggy Malone 187? Oh, did I ever used to talk that way? Larry cringed a bit, but quickly punched that password into the email account. It worked. He went to the search bar and put in his friend's name, as he was in no mood to scroll down 10 years' worth of spam emails this account had built up in his absence. There were thousands of Nigerian prince and mail enhancement spam mails choking up his inbox. He found the email short and sweet. Hey Larry, got a new phone, here's the number. Mike. Dialing the number, Larry got up from his computer. He needed to be up pacing around to burn off this nervous energy. He still wasn't fully calm from anything yet, the idea that someone had intruded upon his home, the pickpocket. So many invasions of his own private space today. Yo, Mike answered after 2 rings. Hey, it's Larry. I know. I don't answer for strangers. What? Does this flip phone still show my name on your phone when I call? Yeah, of course it does. So you do know that I have a flip phone? Of course. Wait, do you mean literally? No, what? I thought you were calling your old garbage phone a flip phone. Why do you have an actual flip phone? I don't know. I was calling to ask you why you slipped one in my pocket and put a cat in my apartment. Is this a metaphor for something? No, all literal. What's going on? Larry told Mike about talking to a lady in the park who was around 10 years his senior, telling her he had a cat, then coming home and finding the exact same cat he described to her there in his living room. He also mentioned the flip phone in his pocket, and of course he had to go into detail about how he found Mike's phone number buried in an old email account. So you were spying on me when I spoke to the lady in the park, right? Larry pressed, just wanting to hear confirmation. No, I haven't done anything. Why would you even think it's me? Because there's no signs of forced entry, and only 2 people have a key to my apartment, you and my sister, and she's currently living on the other side of the country, so that leaves you as the most likely suspect. Maybe that lady you spoke to in the park was a genie? I didn't say I wish I had a cat, I just said that I had one. What was her name? Did you get it? I want to go find her and make a wish. And a better wish than just for a cat or something stupid you can get without a genie and magic. Oh, it was like Becky or something? No, Teresa. She said her name was Teresa. Didn't catch a last name. I doubt she was a genie, though. She was just out there walking her son and wanting nothing to do with me. Weird hobby for her to have, but okay, Mike said. I still think it's a wish thing. Did you mention anything about your phone to her? No, why would I? Wait, actually, Mike, I did tell her I just gotten a new phone, but I didn't tell her I wanted a flip phone. Classic cautionary tale. Tell me, you said you were very specific about the type of cat, and now you have that exact type of rare chimera cat, right? Well, were you specific about the type of new phone you got? Well, no. Yep, I knew it. Cautionary tale, Genie. You weren't specific, so what you got was left up to her interpretation. Who the hell hears new phone and pictures a flip phone anymore? Old people. You did say she was like 10 years older than you, right? Larry somehow felt more relaxed at this thought. The idea of someone invading his house troubled him, but the idea of a cat magically appearing in his apartment bothered him far less. While he was a naturally skeptical person, only entertaining such thoughts for fun up until this point, he was now starting to admit to himself that there seemed to be some potential for truth here. It seems crazy to think I met a genie without knowing it, Larry said, But what does Sherlock always say? When you've eliminated every possible answer, then something impossible must be the truth. Is that the quote? I'm paraphrasing. Look, what if she wasn't the genie? I just don't get that kind of vibe from her. Maybe it's something else? Maybe you're the genie? Mike said. I don't sleep in a lamp, though. You keep saying things and getting them, though, right? Maybe whatever you say comes true? Well, I said it, but it was her interpreted that gave me a new flip phone instead of a new smartphone? It did occur to Larry that he'd told her he didn't have any pictures on his new phone, and a flip phone couldn't take pictures. So it actually rang true that this could have been something she pictured at that moment. Look, this is a brand new power you have, and we're not totally clear on how it works yet, but if you just, I don't know, try things, maybe you'll start to figure it out. Is that even safe? I think we're obligated to exploit any powers you get to their fullest. Larry wanted to brush this off, to tell Mike he's crazy, to begin exploring other possibilities like some third party had a key to his apartment that neither of them knew about, or even his landlord decided to prank him for some inexplicable reason. That still sounded more likely than Larry suddenly becoming magical one day. Except that damn cat was just so specific. Sherbert the Chimera Cat was something he'd thought up off the top of his head when he accidentally let his imagination run wild in the moment, and less than an hour later that precise cat was waiting for him. And there was no signs of intrusion, no signs of someone trying to watch his reaction here. It was just an incredibly, incredibly rare cat that seemed to simply be his cat now, was here, his own fur baby, exactly as he described to Teresa. That seemed far too impossible to be real if magic wasn't involved. Nobody could have found such a cat and put it in his apartment so quickly, even a prank-based TV show with a producer that had wealthy backers. Larry leaned over towards the cat, which stood again on top of the back of the couch, putting his nose almost up against the cat's nose. He examined Sherbert carefully, brushing his fingers slowly across the top of the cat's head. The cat's eyes were barely opened as he did this, but he could still clearly see the two colored eyes. He asked himself for a moment if half this cat had been painted to fool him, if one of the cat's eyes was a contact lens. But no, it was a chimera cat, and that was that. It really was these colors. This cat looks pretty hungry, Larry spoke up after a moment's silence. Glad I have a couple loose 20s in my pocket. I can run to the pet store to get him food. You're going to keep him? Mike asked. If not, I was going to ask for him. He sounds really cute. I may just have to come by and break into your place to see him soon. Larry felt himself shaking as he reached into his pocket. He didn't have any loose change on him, let alone a couple $20 bills. He knew this. He knew it for fact. He didn't even have a $1 for the company vending machine during lunch hour today. He lit his hand inside his pocket and felt his fingers brush against two folded paper dollars. He pulled them out, and sure enough, they were both $20 bills, bright, crisp, new. Hey, Mike. Yeah. I didn't have any money in my pockets when I just told you I did, but I just checked, and I totally had $40. So you are magic. Cool. Wish me up a convertible. Sure. I wish you had a convertible. Red. A red convertible. After a moment's pause, Mike could be heard sighing, and he reported back that no such car was waiting for him when he checked outside. Why not? Mike wondered. Wait, the $40 was the third thing you wished for, right? Did you just waste 3 wishes on a cat, a crappier phone, and $40? Larry cracked up laughing suddenly, too jubilant to be able to respond for a hot second. I hope not, Larry said when he could speak again. But if so, I'd be glad to be rid of these powers. I was kind of worried for a moment there that anything I said would come true. Like any lie I told would transmute fables into reality. Could you even imagine what kind of trouble that would cause me? Mike also floated the idea that Larry was making all of this up from the beginning, as he had yet to see any proof of this chimera cat or anything else Larry had said to him. He asked Larry to send him a picture of the cat, and Larry said he couldn't. His smartphone was his only camera, after all. And it's not like flip phones could send text messages anyway. While Mike grew convinced that Larry was just pulling his leg this whole time, he felt nothing malicious from it. Larry just wanted to pull his leg about something, a nice after-work gag to blow off some steam. They said their goodbyes, and Larry decided to head out into the town to go spend his magically conjured up $40 in cat food and a feed and water bowl. He wanted to cube Sherbert. He'd normally never want to stay near pets, but a magic pet? He was feeling quite open-minded about keeping one of those. And, if it was magical wish powers, the money appearing in his pocket also confirmed Teresa had nothing to do with these powers. He really was the genie himself, not her. What else could it even be but magic? The second I said I had $40 in my pocket, I did. Nobody could have planted that on me like the flip phone. Unless I just had that money in my pocket and forgot about it. No, I'd just checked earlier today. Unless that was yesterday, I was out of money for the machine. The more he ran through everything in his mind, the more he began to doubt having such powers after all. Larry wandered through the grocery store absent-mindedly, lost in his own thoughts. He knew roughly where the pet food section was as he'd walked past it before, but it still took a bit of searching around a general area to spot it. He didn't know the difference between one type of cat food and another. Chicken? Fish? I bet cats like fish more. I'll buy it fish-flavored. Wait, dry food or wet? Do cats care? Dry is cheaper, comes in a big bag. For wet, I'd have to buy all these cans. He grabbed a bag of dry food and one of those things where it's two bowls stuck together, one for food, one for water. Then he stopped and stared at cat toys for a long time. He was about to pick up a ball, but realized it was meant for a dog. He wondered if the cat would care. He decided not to buy any toys yet. He'd wait to see if the cat was bored first. Maybe it could entertain itself and wouldn't need the toys? He had no idea. He'd never owned a cat. Buying the items and leaving the store, he felt his stomach growling. He couldn't very well buy food for the cat and neglect himself, so he opted to buy some human food too. He stopped at a hot dog vendor on the side of the street on his walk home. He had ample change left over from the magically conjured money to buy a hot dog. Still lost in thought, Larry removed the paper sleeve the vendor had placed the hot dog in and tossed it on the sidewalk. "Hey," the vendor called to him, "don't litter in front of my shop." "I didn't," Larry replied. "I threw it in the trash." The vendor leaned forward to look over his stall, and out of curiosity Larry glanced back down at the ground, too. There was no paper sleeve there at all. Larry was willing to bet if he checked the trash can next to the vendor's stall, he would find his hot dog's paper sleeve there, sitting right on top of everything else thrown away that day. That would also mean he wasn't limited to just 3 wishes. There was no telling how many times he conjured things into or out of reality. "Oh, my bad. I guess I saw you toss it from a weird angle," the vendor said. Larry ate the hot dog with one hand, carrying the plastic bag with his cat's stuff in the other, and trekked back towards his apartment. He glanced to the right across a parking lot when he grew close to his place. The phone store he'd stopped at earlier loomed there, staring back at him. Stopping slowly, he turned to look at the store, taking a bite from his hot dog as he did so and chewing it slowly. "I've been needing a new phone anyway, doubly so now." Larry smirked, an idea having just popped into his mind.